Good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're seeing this. Welcome to another edition of the Weekly Brunch. Um, I'm changing my format just so you know. This is recorded, so I'm pre-recording unless we hit a topic that I believe people would want more input. So let me know whether you want a live or whether you just want a recording. Leave it in the comments. Now I'm going to first preamble this discussion with the disclaimer, as usual, that this is for entertainment purposes only, and anything shared here is my opinion, and most likely has been researched, but at the end of the day, is nothing but my opinion, and we all know how we feel about that. Everyone has one. Now, I'm not sure when you're going to see this recording, but today's topic is being eclectic a bad thing? Now, this topic generated from a different topic that I didn't think was enough to tackle on itself. So, we're going to tackle the eclectic part, which actually does bring on this topic, which is something I've been contemplating a lot lately. And it's a pattern I've noticed in every type of people, whether you're in the occult or diehard religious, whatever religion you are, because we all have those that are diehard, or what most people would call fundamentalists. No need to insult anybody. But on this beautiful Sunday morning, which is when I'm recording this, well, afternoon, is after 12 now, as I was walking, and yes, I am one of those people that I don't fit the norm in appearance or anything like that. But even when I did, it was it's something I've always noticed as a child, that if you look a certain way, if you act a certain way, if you think a certain way, it brings up an attitude of what comes off sometimes as entitlement. It does sometimes comes off as being a fundamentalist, and no matter what view it is. Now, most people, when you say fundamentalist, it means religious. No, it means someone who is so diehard in their opinion. And this is how I'm interpreting this definition. I should look it up, but I'm not going to at this point. Your way is the right way, and there's no other way. It's called judgment. A lot of people have judgments, and we all do. We're human. That's part of being human. We judge. But it's judgment to a different level. Judgment is like sometimes saying, I won't do this, or this is something I wouldn't do. But no, it's to the point where it's almost, in a way, it becomes harassment, and it's shown in belittling, talking down to, treating others less than they are. It's almost to the point where if they don't follow that particular person's ideology, they're not worth speaking or existing or feeling as if they exist, which I think is a problem. And I think it's a problem, especially for people who are eclectic, people who don't subscribe to a particular ideology, a particular sense of opinion. Even, and that's a whole different conversation, but even those who don't accept certain facts or so-called facts. So a lot of people will harass people and belittle them to show that their belief is superior to those. And personally, I feel the fact that so much effort must be shown to prove that particular point. It's not done in discussion. It's actually done out of malice, purpose malice. And even the people who are doing it purposely sometimes don't realize they're doing it purposely, which is a problem in itself. But to me, honestly, that much effort shows the complete opposite. It doesn't show that you're right. It shows that you're not only incorrect, it also shows that you're trying to convince yourself by belittling and bringing down someone else. Now, you ask, what does this have to do with being eclectic? Just bear with me a moment and I'll explain. I'll show you the bigger picture. Because no matter what spiritual path you're on currently right now, you're always going to find people who don't agree and feel that you need to be guided in the right place, which actually their shenanigans, the taking that hard line of view of something should be done or how something should be done should be interpreted or anyway. Basically, this is a box. And the person administering it, and this is something that you want to do as you're practicing your mindfulness and being in the present when you're doing it too. Because just because you're eclectic does not mean you're above all these either. You have to understand, am I operating within a box? Because that's what someone who acts like this does. They are within a box. And being eclectic is what I call being outside the box. You are looking at the whole picture, not just the picture of that particular belief system, if this makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't, but hopefully it will. So when dealing with certain topics, when dealing with whatever particular topic there is, most people attribute it to spiritual or religious beliefs, but there are other beliefs, scientific beliefs. You'll see that in the scientific sector, conspiracy sector. Oh gosh, yes, you do see that in that sector as well. You start noticing that nothing can be added when you're operating within the box, which makes being eclectic very nice, because when you're outside the block, everything could be considered. It doesn't make it absolute and it doesn't make it right. But the fact that you're able to consider being outside the box and the opinions, the options, everything outside the box being there, it does help. You come to an actual factual conclusion, which most eclectics, that's what you want to do. We want to absorb, okay, I'm speaking in my sense as an eclectic. You want to absorb the truth and assimilate it into your system. Now, whether this is by choice or by circumstance, because sometimes it happens by circumstance, it depends on the person, the subject, and sometimes the environment. Now, those are three things you have to keep in fact when you're being eclectic and you're trying not to be bullied into a particular system or belief system. You have to look at the subject. Is it a touchy subject? Is this subject a subject that is something that could only be taken in absolutes? Is there more information? And your environment? Are you in an environment where you are dealing with a lot of fanaticals? And these judgment actions can cause several counterintuitive feelings within yourself if you're eclectic. The worst one is the abstract of is the removal, the refusal of additional information for your own personal assessment. And it comes in many forms. It comes in demonizing a particular thought process. It's also belittling, making you feel as if you are not intelligent enough, uneducated enough, not there. How could you understand due to either cultural, gender, different types of things? And I am speaking to a point on a personal basis. Being a woman, being a person of color, there are certain subjects I walk into and people are like, how could you know? What would you know? Even by those who are of the same gender, same race, same culture as me, because the culture that they know is the only culture that can be, which is not necessarily true and quite limiting. And if you're eclectic, you do not believe in limitations. Just saying. Now, my point is, and I have to preface by stating that how this comes off depends on the delivery. Some people could deliver it as a compliment. A couple of days later, because if you're eclectic, if you are watching me now, you're a thinker. Later down the road, you start thinking, what do they mean by that? And you start doubting your belief system. You start doubting your way of thinking, which is not the best. And you've allowed yourself and your process to be taken. Now, I do this myself. I mean, we all tend to do this. And the last couple of months, yes, I have been humbled because I had to take a step back. I do like to think of myself as an easygoing person, an open-minded person, but there's always, no matter who you are, there's that one topic, that one subject that's not up for conversation or deliberation. It's just meant to be told. Now, my view sometimes, my delivery sometimes comes as if I'm speaking off a soapbox. I know. You're recording, you're broadcasting your opinions. Of course, it's going to seem like a soap, like you're speaking on top of a soapbox. But it's not that you're as if you're speaking on top of a soapbox, but are you speaking on top of the soapbox of entitlement? And I have to admit, sometimes they are. I didn't mean to. And fortunately, the people I've had discussions with at the time, nicely, they did not shy away from their point. They were flexible with how they spoke, and either they changed their approach or sometimes they're direct. Either which way, for me, works. It just takes a couple of times to process. They're flexible with my process of digestion of the new information. Now, the digestion may take a couple of seconds, or it may even take a couple of days, and sometimes even months, and other times years, but we won't go into those. But after my first experience of face-to-face dealing with this, where I was on the judgmental side, even though I consider myself eclectic, I started to appreciate my ability to listen. That's the key point when you're eclectic. Actively listen, not listen to respond like we mostly do, especially on our day-to-day lives. Actively listen to what the person is saying, process it, and honestly compare it to my personal viewpoint. No ego, just a little bit of gratitude. Gratitude. Why? You're asking why gratitude? Well, gratitude is because one, the person shared that information with me. which they are under no obligation to share their opinion, their viewpoint, the way they view the world with anybody, let alone me. And also gratitude for being able to listen, truly listen, not to respond, and actually do calculations either within my head during that time or during any elapsed time that they may provide, or doing the research on the information provided. Oh, that's wonderful. Google has made things wonderful. I remember back in the day when I was growing up, yes, I am dating myself. Finding out whether someone told the truth meant going to the library, several libraries, different libraries, doing research in the encyclopedia. Internet wasn't that big then, so you had to actually take months, and literally months, because 9 times out of 10, it was looking for particular books, looking for particular authors, sometimes even purchasing those authors just to get the knowledge, trying to find resources, which 9 times out of 10 you had to physically see. So any national or global library was out of the question due to age. And if it wasn't a bus ride or a train ride away, it was something that would have to wait for years down the line. Now, it's even easier, which I find it odd that it's even easier, yet it is even more difficult for people to do, is open up Google or a search engine if you don't like Google and do a search. Do your research. You don't have to necessarily, although there is an option, use AI if you're anti-AI, but it's at your fingertips. After that interaction, I started to pay attention a little bit closer on interactions that I personally had with people when their opinion and their viewpoint was different from mine. I also started to take a look at how other people act that were not as open-minded as me. And that's when I saw it. The judgment. Judgment in the eyes, judgment in the face, judgment in the interactions, or lack of, due to the fact that an opinion, a viewpoint, a path was not of their personal approval. Now, I'm going to get to the answer of, is being eclectic a bad thing? Because there's no straight answer to that, but I will continue. We as human beings tend to come off as sort of condescending and absolute when it comes to sharing our methods, when it comes to sharing our viewpoints, when it comes to questions that should be personal. And all it should be is a matter of sharing a viewpoint and not sharing a system that should be. No matter what the topic is, there is also that feeling of judgment, people being judgmental, or even you being judgmental, because we're human. We're not perfect. We like to think we are, but we're not. Sorry for bringing that reality to light. It comes off as, something that is absolute and there's no room for interpretation, no room for improvement, which in my personal opinion is always a dangerous place to be when you're in a place where there's no room for improvement. And to improve, you must interpret it. You must have different interpretations and different opinions and different viewpoints. Now, to someone who's an eclectic individual, this is the most suffocating and strangling effect that it could have, is that you are on the wrong path, and because you're not following what they believe is the norm, is wrong in no matter what way. It's strangling, it's suffocating, which is the main reason most people become eclectic, is because they were in a situation or they were in an environment that was strangling, that was eclectic. Not eclectic, that did not allow for opinions. Excuse me. and we analyze. And unfortunately, then we stop, because of this type of attitude, we stop analyzing the topic on hand, and we start analyzing ourselves on how, and our viewpoints as being wrong. We don't analyze it from a objective place. And it could be detrimental to the information that we receive and the possibilities that could be. Now, it also brings up the feeling of guilt, which is why we practice gratitude every day, because it grounds us, it brings our feet back on earth, and it makes us realize that, no, we are not on the wrong path for us. Am I on the wrong path? I'm on a learning path. If you're on a learning path, there's no wrong direction in a learning path, unless you're just an evil person, but that's just not here or there. So why am I referencing this feeling of guilt? To an eccentric person, that guilt could be a hindrance of one's growth. It also could be a hindrance on one's ability to process information in an objective manner. A hindrance is not a stop sign, though, just so you know. It's more like a slow sign. It slows down your momentum. It slows down your trajectory. It sometimes derails systems you put in place for your peace. It makes you feel a little guilty for being analytical, if only for that moment. Because if you are on this path of being eclectic, you could call yourself anything. It does cause a moment of slowdown. Doubt does rear its nasty head into your mind frame, and it's up for you to diffuse it, which is an injustice for you as a person, as an analytical person, and it's an injustice to the topic. So is being eclectic a bad thing? No. And yes. No, because you are finding your own path and you are opening yourself up to the possibilities of the world of thought, the world of spirituality, the world in general. Just because you have a certain way of thinking and doing things in a spiritual manner does not mean it stops at spirituality. It also goes into the way you progress in your day-to-day life, in your relationships, in your career, in the topic that you choose, which may have nothing to do with spirituality, but at the same time does. Another different discussion I may have down the road. That is the no. The yes is you do open yourself up for criticism. You do open yourself up to the feeling of guilt by those who are not eclectic and are absolute. And you have to know the difference. You have to understand, without malice, that the person who's projecting such a feeling, that's their viewpoint. I like to look at it as, okay, that's your viewpoint. I'm going to take your viewpoint. I am going to analyze it against what I've learned so far and see what parts I can assimilate and what cannot assimilate. And what does not assimilate, I will file for later. But at this point, it's not there for me. So being eclectic is not bad and it's not good, because we as human beings are not bad and we are not good, but we are. And that's the point. We are. You practice your gratitude every day or every week, depending how often you're able to do it. and you realize, I am. Stay in the moment. Try not to get too emotional because your opinion and their opinion may not be of the same, but there's room for consideration and room for thought. If anything, it's given you another angle to look at whatever the topic is and may actually bring more fruit into your life than you realize. So I would say being eclectic is always a good thing more than the bad thing. And the bad thing is external. So does that make it a bad thing? That's a question you're going to have to answer every time you face those judgments, which they're going to come. But you have to remember your practices, which is three main practices: mindfulness, gratitude, and journaling. Everything else is adding to those three experiences. And whether you meet someone who's judgmental or meet someone who opposes your views, it's still an experience. And that's what we're here for as human beings. We're here for the experience. So keep being your eclectic self. Keep being your curious self. But always remember mindfulness, gratitude, and always journal. I hope you like this. If you have any comments, anything you'd like to share, leave it in the comment box. Within a week, hopefully, I will take a look at it. And for the rest of the week, your homework will probably be mindful of those moments when what makes you who you are is challenged or spoken of, and you have to face. See how you react to that. And also see when you are doing the same thing to someone else. Because like I said, we're not perfect and we are humans and we do these things. So be present, be grateful, and always journal. Until I see you next time, bye-bye.